Being too afraid to step into your purpose or choosing not to step into your purpose not only harms you or hurts you, but it also affects all of the people who you came here to inspire, who you came here to help, who you came here to shift. When we decide that our purpose isn't important enough, or that we're not worthy of it, or that we don't deserve it, or that we can't do it, it doesn't just hurt us. It also hurts everybody that we are meant to uplift and help transform by playing out our purpose and by actually doing that thing, whatever it may be. And I think it's really interesting to think about because the reality is that we came here with the idea that we were going to help certain people or whatever. And if we never fully step into our purpose or do that, then we're actually not completing what we came here to do, right? We're actually not doing the thing or reaching the goal that we chose. And so this is kind of what's coming through is kind of the difference between fate and destiny, right? Fate is, in my opinion, what we do because of what society tells us to do, what we do because of what we've been taught to do, right? Fate is kind of like what happens to us, in my personal opinion. And destiny is what we are meant to do. And to be able to step onto the path of destiny, there's this need to have to be able to kind of let yourself unlearn what you've learned. Let yourself walk into the unknown. Let yourself move not from what you see, but from what you feel. That's how you step onto your path of destiny and how you move into your destiny, right? Does everybody end up getting on their path of destiny or walking that path? I have to say, I don't think so, to be honest. I don't think everybody does. I do think that you have to be very strong willed and you have to be very aware and healed to a certain degree to be able to choose the path of destiny. Because a part of you has to really be okay with being uncomfortable and really be okay with the unknown and be willing to step into the unknown. And that can be really scary for a lot of people. It can be absolutely terrifying for many. And to the point where people will tell themselves that they feel comfortable or happy where they're at because they're too afraid of what could be or what's next, right? And that's pretty common as well. I remember myself doing that. So no judgment here. I told myself that I was happy with what I was doing. I felt good in my life and all of these different things. And then, you know, once you see something, you can't unsee it. I learned that the hard way. And that was actually what changed the trajectory of my life personally. But I don't know that I would have seen that if I didn't have such a crazy spiritual awakening experience to kind of like pull and rip that veil open and pull those blinders off for me to see that, to be honest. But we all have these moments, right? Where our lives can completely shift, our lives can completely change. And I believe that that moment is when we decide, are we going to walk the faith trail? Or are we going to walk towards our destiny, even though it's unknown, even though it's scary, even though we may not feel ready, right? We may not feel worthy enough. I think all of those things are normal. I know for myself, I didn't feel worthy enough. I didn't feel ready when I started walking that path. And it was about learning to trust that I was going to learn those things along the way. I was going to figure it out along the way. And I did. And I have. And that's not to say that I'm 100% in all these places, right? But I'm way more than I was when I started. And I think that's still a win. That's still a movement forward. And yet I'm still walking that path towards destiny. And as I continue to walk that path, things get a little bit easier. It feels a little bit easier. The unknown doesn't feel as scary. I'm used to the fear. I'm used to the visibility and the things that come with that, right? Like that's part of what happens when you're on the path. It's not about, I think I got stuck in this mindset where I thought it was about like you plan all these things and you figure it out and you know your next steps and then you know the step after that and the step after that and the step. I'm sure some of you do this too, where you're like, I know what I'm doing next, right? And you do all this research before you actually take the plunge. I used to be that way. And it only kept me stuck. The idea that I needed to have this thing be perfect and that thing be perfect and this thing need be perfect before I actually could move forward and do that. It was just this, you know, self-fulfilling prophecy, honestly, of staying stuck in old patterns. And it took me a long time to realize that actually this need to perfect, this need to refine was keeping me so stuck in the same way of being that I really just wanted to step out of, that I was working on stepping out of. And, you know, once I realized that and I learned that the journey isn't about planning, it isn't about figuring it out, it's about taking that next step, it's about making that next move, it's about figuring it out as you go. Everything started to move a lot quicker for me. Everything started to move forward. And I started to shift and change and transform faster than I was before, where I was trying to do all of these things or figure all these things out or do all the research or find out how this was going to work before I actually took the step to make it work. And so I think that that's probably been one of the things that I wish I had known earlier, is that I wish I would have known that I just need to do the thing and I just need to show up and do the thing. And then once I'm doing the thing, I need to figure out what it is that I need to continue doing the thing, what I need to heal to continue, what support I need to continue doing the thing. But you can't know those things until you're doing it. And I just wish I would have known that earlier. Along this path, though, what has been really beautiful for me is, watching and hearing other people's inspirational stories about their own destiny and their own ability to walk the path. And I think that that's partially why we're here, right? We're all reflections of the universe, different reflections of the universe, right? And we all can show each other different ways of looking at things and seeing things and inspire each other in a different way, which I think is really beautiful. I'm not somebody who has ever really been into movie stars or like famous people. Like, I think they're just like me and you. They just chose a different path and they just did something different. So I've never really been really big into those things, to be honest, or like followed them. That's just not my thing. But who I have been really into and who I do find very inspirational is, I've always found Moses' story extremely inspirational, and Harriet Tubman's story. And, as I change and grow and transform, I stumble into new stories that I find really inspiring. And this is kind of coming to the top of my mind because I'm always looking for that. Like, I'm always looking for that experience where I am seeing someone who's doing something really beautiful and they're following their heart. And it's just like this extra little um, acknowledgement that it can be done. If they can do it, why can't I do it? Right? Like, I think that's what these inspirational stories are meant to teach us. If they can do it, I can do it. And I guess this is at the top of my mind because I'm thinking a lot about how, if I watched Harriet last night, which is like a movie on Netflix, and it's fantastic if you haven't seen it and you like that kind of thing, love it. You should go check it out. But in this movie, she does the Underground Railroad. She saves 700 slaves, I believe, by the end of it. And she was a slave herself, right? So she was a slave herself. She got herself out of slavery, and then she went back and saved others. And what I found so cool about this movie is that she was psychic, in my personal opinion of what I would call it, or she spoke to God, is what she said. And that is what guided her to this path. And so her intuition, whatever you want to call it, right? Her intuition, universe, source, God, spirit, whatever, right? But what she had endured and what she had been through had actually helped her to be able to have the compassion and understanding to help others. So she fully stepped into her purpose because what she was able to overcome, she could help others overcome. And I really resonate with that because that's exactly what my therapy work has always been. And my coaching work is that as well. And it's all, and even when I write my books and I write different things, it's all about that. It's all about what I've overcome to help other people overcome it. And there's just like this really beautiful piece about being able to walk your path, right? When you start walking the path and you start walking your destiny path, right? You're helping others be able to do that. And if you look around, a lot of people do that. They feel very inspired by that. And I think it's absolutely beautiful because how could you help somebody do what you haven't done yourself? I'm a personal believer that you can only bring somebody as far as you yourself have gone. And I've always believed that, to be honest with you. And so I really love these inspirational stories because they really kind of put into perspective this idea of if she never overcame slavery, if she never left, if she never did those things, right? Those 700 slaves wouldn't have been saved. And so coming back to and even in the movie, by the way, she was the one who started running that reform, and she kept it going even when they had to escape all the way to Canada, which was 600 miles compared to 100 miles that they were escaping to Pennsylvania. I mean, amazing, amazing. And it's this inspiration that comes up in me and this passion that I feel around like these stories because they're meant to show you what you're capable of. They're meant to show you what could be, what you could be, what you're capable of. And I just find that so inspirational and beautiful. And though if she never did that, where would we be now? All of those people would never have been saved, right? And I know that this story is a little bit more intense in regards to like life or death kind of situation in some ways. I get that. But my point, regardless, is that when you choose to step into your purpose, you are not just choosing it for yourself, you are choosing it for everybody that you are meant to help and heal and inspire. Everyone, even the people that maybe you never actually come into contact with, right? But you inspire them because of your energy, because of the energy you embody, because of what you say, because of that one thing that you said at that one moment in time that clicked in line for them, right? You may never actually interact with them, but they may see something or hear something that you said, and it might completely change the trajectory of their life. I personally believe that there is so much change that we transform and give others that we will never ever know. You'll never ever be aware of. There is so much that you give to others that you see some of those transformations, and that's beautiful and wonderful. And I think that's very precious. But there are also transformations and shifts that you will never ever know. You will never ever see but are still happening. It's funny because what's coming through is kind of like this idea that I always used to tell myself, before I became an entrepreneur, which is like 6 years ago, right? Before I started doing really deep healing work with people, is that, going to the store, right? And smiling at the person behind the counter or remembering their name or remembering their story or remembering something they shared with me, right? I always felt like that was such a beautiful moment. It was such a beautiful moment of helping them to feel seen and how I am able to show up in that way and give that to them, right? In these tiny little interactions. And so I personally believe that we do this in so many different ways. That person that's having a bad day and you're on a walk with your dog and you smile at them and they smile back at you, right? Like in the smallest moments, we are constantly influencing each other. We are constantly affecting each other. Even when I'm driving in my car and I'm headbanging to music or singing at the top of my lungs, right? And I'm jamming out, there are some people that look over and they laugh. And that is even a moment where there's a transformation, there's a shift, there's a dopamine release, right? There's just so many moments and so much time that we really do have such an effect on others that we just will never really know. We will never really know the extent of it. But I just find it so beautiful because I just feel like we are all here to inspire each other, to pump each other up, to help each other see what is absolutely possible. And this is why people like the role models, right? This is why people look up to the famous people and all of that kind of stuff. Like, that's why, because there's something within them that you would like for yourself or you see that you want for yourself, right? Completely normal, right? Um, and when you are envious of other people or jealous of other people, right, that's because there's something there that you want for yourself. And I just think it's beautiful, kind of how this happens, maybe without even our awareness, maybe without even your awareness until I talked about it today, right? But not stepping into your purpose and being too afraid to do what you came here to do, it doesn't just affect you, it affects everybody else. Everybody else that you came here to help, everybody else that's meant to be touched by you and your energy. And I just think that's such a beautiful thing. If this resonates with you, I would love to hear that, some of the things that I speak about are inspiring. And if you don't feel comfortable, that's okay, because there's a part of me that knows that what I'm doing is what I'm meant to do. And there are plenty of people who I'm helping who I will never know. But I see you and I love you and I appreciate you. If you would like some deeper help with stopping second guessing, stopping self sabotage, stopping hesitation, helping yourself to move into your purpose, to get to where you're meant for more, building that self trust and that confidence for yourself to do that. This is exactly what I do in my coaching. I do have a self trust reset right now for free that you can go on my website and get at crystalclearmystic.com. And just know that I'm here for you when you're ready. When you're ready to step into your purpose, when you're ready to walk into your destiny, I'm here for you if you need me. I love you so much. Take care.